had a chance to get a nice lunch. I have some Thai food coming later, so I'm pretty excited about that. I had Thai food at our last lunch and learn too. That's kind of my go-to for the lunch and learns. But just to do some quick introductions, I'm Grant, so I'll be kind of our moderator today, speaking with our Senior Director of Strategy, John Liu, and really looking forward to walking through some unique strategies around the impact of privacy first and social media marketing. And then really, growing the journey through Google and Facebook, call that the social channels, and really trying to understand a consumer's journey and how these different ad formats help us, work somebody through all areas of the funnel. So really looking forward to, walking through those different items today. And from here, I'll just go ahead and jump in and just do a quick overview on Adolescent so everybody knows just at least who we are and, kind of our position in the space. But Adolescent is pretty old. So we are 20 years old. We actually came up working with Amazon in our early days and managed all of Amazon's Nonbrand Search for our first 10 years from 2001 to 2010. Adolescent primarily focuses in retail, as you can see. So we are across the board handling retailers of all sizes and complexities, from folks like your Staples and your big box stores like your Nordstroms and Barnes and Nobles, folks like that. The other side of our business is the traditional pure play e-commerce retailer, and we definitely understand the challenges when you don't have physical stores and how you work somebody through that funnel. And then finally, we do a lot on the B2B side as well. So really understanding the intent and how we want to drive the B2B customer as well. Angela, I did see some folks in the waiting room. Just wanted to make sure we were able to let them in. Okay, I think everybody got in okay. And then Adolescent is Google's largest manager of search and shopping ads on the retail segment. So a lot of great work there. And then we are a Facebook preferred partner. So as we all know, shopping ads and DPAs often run off of a product feed. So a lot of great synergies between the two channels there. And we'll actually talk about product feed management today. So first, I just wanted to start with the impact of some of the privacy first changes in the landscape today. As we know, it has gotten increasingly harder each year as new challenges have entered the market, whether that be third-party cookies, whether that's CCPA and GDPR. As we saw earlier this year, the iOS 14 impact, really made advertising challenges a little difficult, and we did see some costs go up kind of across the retail segment. But what's very interesting is that digital is really seeing tremendous growth year over year, especially last year. We saw, especially in the retail segment, that digital was up almost 100%. So digital is growing, more of the traffic is moving online, but we are seeing more restrictions and more challenges. And we'll talk just a little about that and how we're trying to solve some of those challenges. And I'll actually pass it to you, John, just to talk a little bit about server-side tracking real quick to kind of for us.
Thanks, Trent. There's a lot of different ways to solve some of these challenges that are approaching us in this digital age with less measurable marketing and just less ability to truly understand what media is doing exactly what. We did want to talk about some of the technical approaches before we got into some of the tactical approaches to addressing this. On the technical side, we really think that it's important to be thinking about server-side tracking as we go into the future. Whether that's Facebook API or your Google conversion tracking being delivered via API. That really is, I think, one of the most important ways that advertisers and retailers will be able to gain more control of their data and strengthen how that data is shared. By delivering conversions using server-side APIs, you can, avoid having those pixels on your site. In some markets, you actually have issues with sharing too much data when the pixel's just on your site and passing conversions to every single visitor that passes through. You'll gain more control over that. And what you'll really be able to do is carefully understand, right, like all of your different specific conversion points, which of those are happening, how are those associated with your different media points, and making sure that that value is being sent into your third-party tracking system, something like our proprietary technology, Deep Search, or to Google to inform their automated smart bidding algorithms, or to Facebook, where Facebook is looking at different conversions where you have a limit on 8 conversions you can use for optimization. There's still no limit at this time on the number of conversions you can be tracking for guiding the overall understanding of the shopping journey or building audiences from. So from there, though, as you're addressing these technical solutions, there is still a lot of tactical things and strategic elements that we think are really important to consider as we continue to market in this new world where digital only continues to gain importance, but everything is a little less trackable than in the past. So Grant, we can move on here.
Absolutely. And as we're working through, we do want to keep this interactive. We did get some questions. I think we did pass the content over to most of the attendees on the line today. So we did get some questions around some different content and slide pieces that I'll stop and address, but feel free to drop any questions in the chat. If you have anything important to, chat about, feel free to, just go ahead and voice them. Okay. So next we'll actually talk about the journey, so Google and Facebook, and how we actually use these different ad formats to work the cross channel here.
Mm-hmm. Right. So really, what we see is that in order to keep scaling growth opportunities in 2021 and beyond in this more cookieless future, we really need to focus on growing the entire customer journey, right? Especially for many retailers who have somewhat longer consideration cycles, right? I mean, if you're just selling commodity goods like toilet paper, right, that's the kind of stuff where people just need to know it's available. They're gonna search and purchase same day. There's not necessarily a lot of life cycle marketing going on there. But if you're selling anything that has a higher consideration cycle, apparel, home goods, services, subscription services, those kinds of things might have much higher commitments and involve a much longer life cycle with the customer, from awareness through consideration to really thinking about that purchase through repeat purchase and loyalty. And the truth is, we know that for the mass majority of retailers we work with, there are these longer consideration cycles where there may be 7 days, 14 days, 28 days or more between somebody's first initial paid interaction with you as a retailer or with you as a brand and when they actually make the purchase. And in this, more privacy conscious future where we have less ability to track that data all the way through, where you no longer have a 28-day view through look back window, and you have no idea if that awareness ad can be directly connected to a purchase down the line, it's really important to be thinking about growing that entire customer journey and having campaigns that address the entire life cycle, whether that's new customer acquisition versus repeat purchasers, where you have different audiences and different messages that need to be delivered to them and should be measured to different KPIs, and then growing that into long-term loyalty, and then always being ready for scenario planning and addressing unexpected opportunities and threats, as we all saw last year, right? People who were able to pivot quickly in March, April, and May really saw some better outcomes than people who were not really fully able to lean into that until later into the summer. So today we're going to talk about this customer journey more through the lens of a single consumer. We think this will really help illustrate some of these ideas. We're going to follow Andrew. He's 31 and a new dad living in Austin, which is where Adolescent's based. And he's interested in, shopping for some new outfits for the coming summer. And we'll follow Andrew through a multi-step, multi-purchase journey in his relationship with a online apparel retailer as we go from awareness of the styles and fashions that he might be interested in to driving the purchase and conquesting a potential competitor in search and shopping to get him to that first time purchase, to then bringing him in to cross-sell and upsell and ultimately loyalty. It's important to be thinking about this in terms of a overall funnel. So on the next slide, we think it's important to be looking at this in terms of the overall journey that Andrew has with you as a customer of your retail brand, right? Where from his initial awareness of you to repeat purchase from you, as well as understanding that within that journey, there's multiple parallel simultaneous funnels for each of the different kind of product lines that he may be interested in buying from you now or in the future, as well as for that loyalty experience, right? We really want to understand that, today Andrew is at the bottom of the funnel for that initial shirt that he's looking to get. He's more in consideration, mid-funnel, still doing research around, the shorts and the pants, the shorts and the jacket. And then, he's still early on in awareness phase, not yet really maybe thinking about that fall purchase for a suit to go to that wedding, or maybe a sports jersey as we get to football season. And then as soon as someone becomes a customer of yours, that really should put them away from awareness of maybe your app to actually, let's get them in there to be in that owned experience of yours. So how do we actually drive this parallel, kind of multi-funnel, multi-phase approach? It's really about having campaigns that really address each of these pieces. So next slide. That initial engagement with a consumer like Andrew might be through upper funnel advertising, where we really can lean into social channels for growth, right? We want to build strategies and campaigns for scale on Facebook and Instagram, or TikTok, or wherever your customer base may be, depending on their demographics and what they use. This is an opportunity to utilize both your first-party signals through tools like customer match and audience matching and lookalike modeling, as well as third-party signals delivered from those platforms like Facebook's data and Google's data, in order to deliver creative messages that really express the value of your brand and pique the interest of a consumer and help them understand, what you're about, what kinds of goods you offer, and why they should be shopping with you. Next slide. We really also take a scientific and data-driven approach to this, right? We want to not just be delivering these awareness messages, but really thinking about it in terms of performance marketing, where we are optimizing to a clear objective, right? Even if it's awareness, it has to be driven, performance driven, and we're looking at metrics that indicate shopping intent, driving to true engagement and the ability to. Sorry, where's that noise coming from? Is that Sarah? Oh, yep. Thank you. Okay, sorry about that. Yep. So to make sure that we are able to be testing against this and driving to clear, measurable objectives and KPIs that we want to validate through a data strategy and through perhaps incrementality lift testing, which is something we'll talk about a little bit later. But as you're optimizing to set KPIs, you need to be testing through your creative and your audiences to really understand what is driving those results, helping you iterate to your next campaign, as well as, really truthfully, also partially kind of gaming the system, right? And feeding the Facebook and Google algorithms the data they need for their automated algorithms to be making the right decisions on your behalf. Next slide. So here's an example of where we've achieved success for a customer of ours, Mizzen & Main. So they're a men's apparel brand, right? As we started working with them, we helped them break through some plateaus for new customer acquisition by really testing through some of these upper funnel creatives that drove new customer acquisition for them. Really needing to understand, as their customer base's behaviors shifted in this kind of post-pandemic world, what kinds of new messages were really appealing to them, what kinds of demonstrations of the product were really driving affinity with the brand. And by finding and testing through this messaging with their audiences, we're able to scale significantly and drive 16% more efficient cost per acquisition of new customers and a 60% improvement in return ad spend at a 70% higher investment. So more efficiency and growth. Really great results by just aligning and using data to make decisions to deliver the right creative to the right person to drive that new customer acquisition.
And we had a really great question come in around Mizzen & Main, John, yesterday. So for those golf fans out there, Phil Mickelson is their primary sponsor. And the question was, after Phil Mickelson won a couple of weeks ago, how did we allocate budgets between channels with the increased demand?
Yeah, as soon as Phil won on Sunday, we were on top of it. It's something where you have to be really aware of things like this and potential things that could impact your brand. So we knew that right away, and really kept an eye on our golf audiences. Obviously, because Phil is the primary kind of endorser, one of the most prominent celebrities that are associated with the brand, we already had golf-specific audiences. So we were able to carefully monitor those, see increased activity, see increased orders, and really lean into that right away. We worked with the client to understand and reallocate budget from future weeks in order to make sure that we were to capture this moment in time and just maximize that opportunity, both in terms of new customer acquisition and in terms of getting those converting those reactivated fans to convert. And Phil gave us some great shout outs as well, even, in some of the press after, and it really just contributed a lot. And that's also where it's just really important to be making sure that your performance marketing is well connected to your PR and overall brand efforts as well, right? To make sure that you're able to take advantage of opportunities like that.
Absolutely. Thank you, John.
All right. So, kind of after that initial activation, right, we've tested it out. We've reached Andrew by identifying him in a relevant audience and delivering him like a lifestyle creative that shows him, hey, this is a retailer brand that I could be shopping with. We want to continue reaching out to him as he engages with the site or with ads by relying on dynamic product delivery, dynamic product ads. And again, here we want to test through audiences, really have that robust retargeting strategy that we follow up on. But by continuing to follow him down the funnel in his journey, we're able to deliver more and more specific creative with stronger calls to action that ultimately shift from awareness into consideration and conversion. And in the next touch point, when Andrew is actually actively searching and ready to purchase, on the next slide, this is where we really need to clearly understand, what are the relative search volumes, what are the consumer shopping behaviors that are relevant, who are the comparators, and then, does the retailer have in store? This is something that we always want to pay a lot of attention to. We're certainly seeing a lot of retailers move towards a more digital first strategy, especially post-pandemic. But we also know that in-store experiences are really important and key to getting that overall value out of your customer. As long as you have in-store, that's something we want to lean into as an advantage whenever possible, right? The opportunity to go in-store, to have buy online, pickup in-store, or curbside pickup, to go in and see other potential items to buy in the inventory, right? I mean, obviously you can browse in the online catalog. It's a little different from going in store and seeing all that stuff in front of you. The kind of emphasizing the return experience that's facilitated by having an in-store option. These are things I really want to emphasize and consider for those retailers where that's relevant. But, just really understanding what are the opportunities to be targeting these high purchase intent searches, such as searching for a comparator brand and really highlighting all of your brand's advantages, including price, and be bidding the right amount to get in front of that consumer and, drive that sale, really closing the deal.
From here, we'll actually talk a little bit about feeds and how the feeds across channel really blend together. So one thing that is really unique about the feeds is it is a lever to increase your share of voice, your reach and relevance. The product feed does have a lot of attributes that can be manipulated when you think about segmentation. So items like the title and description can be manipulated and tested. One thing that we actually do here at Adolescent is we actually test the titles and descriptions similar to the way that you would test ad copy in a traditional text ad, but trying to find user-based search query information that stretches across both channels when we think about not only the social channel, but also the Google channel, and how we can leverage that data to identify where somebody is in their journey. So what we found is that diligent feed management and some of this title and description testing can actually increase impression share pretty significantly. We've seen on some programs that have heavy SKU or SKU overlap that we can increase impression share 15-20% with just feed management alone. So a nice lever to use within the channel. What's great about the feed management aspect is that it does cross both channels. So when we think about the product data between Google and of course social, they are two very different, I would say, channels. And Facebook is more of a product catalog that has a lot of different attributes. We do find that some of the attributes do help us identify where somebody is in their journey. And so we will optimize the GMC feed, which is the most built out feed, but then we will push that to all of the relevant channels, whether that's Microsoft, if that's an affiliate partner, if that's Criteo for display or something else. And then of course, social, and making sure that we're trying to have the most robust intent that we can for custom conversions and different parameters there. We also do a lot with restructuring the catalog. So using the feed and segmentation to actually group products within unique structures to be a little bit more dynamic. I think one example of this could be high margin products versus low margin products, can be high AOV products, something with a longer buying intent or buying cycle. but by segmenting, shopping targets into relevant categories, it allows us to reallocate dollars based on the priority of the program and as well as the intent of the actual shopper. This is actually an example of some of the different attributes that we actually use in our technology here. But really, it's just segmentation at scale. That's what we're looking to do. The Google custom labels do allow you to do a lot of manipulation. One other piece that the feed is used for can be used in a dynamic search ad targeting type aspect, and we'll talk about that a little bit more in the presentation. But using the custom labels, unique groupings allows you to stretch across not only the catalog, but it allows you to really efficiently group your catalog at scale. Mm-hmm. And John, I don't know if there's anything else you'd want to add to the feed before we kind of move on to the upper funnel of social.
Yeah, I would just say that the feed also is a great way of bringing data together at the product level, right? That's something that's always been very important to us. From our roots in retail, we've always looked at how to scale product marketing. So we look at data at the product level and at the keyword level. We maintain that data and data structures in our system. And that's really different from having it at like the campaign level or the ad group level, right? We're understanding the data and performance at a level that's separate from campaign structure, which also means that as kind of new opportunities, new options come out from platforms like Google or Facebook, and we need to restructure campaigns in order to take advantage of those new options, that we're not kind of sacrificing the campaign or ad group data that we've built up over time, because we have that understanding more at the product level. And by putting that data into the feed, by using the custom label fields, that also enables us to kind of drive a lot of dynamic stuff that is powered by the feed in platform, such as, product groupings or landing page groupings, in order to actually be bidding and serving the products together in a way that is really well optimized and meeting the user's intent. And that also extends into Pinterest, right? So as we continue to follow Andrew along his journey, we also want to think about reaching his household, reaching other people that may be purchasing on his behalf, right? So again, we could be marketing to Andrew's wife, Cindy, especially if they're, using the same device, and, she's logged into Pinterest, and, he visits the website, and there's that kind of cookie match made, right? Where you're able to continue following up and run feed-driven campaigns in Pinterest as well, as people are actively seeking out fashion or apparel solutions. Thanks for your time, Natalie. Thanks for joining us. And, that really allows us to, again, market to that household. And this is where also it's important to be optimizing your Pinterest feed differently than your Google feed or your Facebook feed, right? Because there are different requirements. In Google, it's really important to highlight your brand and the product trademark brand, because that really helps match to those key bottom funnel searches. In Google, that's less, in Facebook, that's less important, because your brand appears in the upper left corner of every single ad that you run. So you don't need to emphasize that as much in the product description. Instead, you can reserve that for more information about the products themselves. And in Pinterest, a lot of the search matching against your product catalog in Pinterest actually uses some of these, product catalog, product type fields that Google has kind of obsoleted. Google standardized and is more focused on their product categories. But in Pinterest, you can still define custom categories that help drive your campaigns there. So it's just important to be optimizing your feeds to be able to drive these types of campaigns that enable that awareness and cross-selling, again, after that initial purchase. So next slide, as we reactivate Andrew, as he continues to shop, as he's thinking about, completing his outfit, this is where we also want to be playing in the areas where people do research, right? So like Amazon and Google, where people are engaged in search. This is where we really want to be engaged in non-brand search. That's where we can really see growth and a lot of kind of additional customer intent optimization. So how do we approach non-brand search? How do we scale against the large number of long tail keywords that make up 20 to 30% of high converting searches, but are, you might get less than 10 clicks on any keyword like that in a given month? What we've really done these days is to take advantage of the data that's available to us to leverage automation with dynamic search ads. So next slide. We really want to be able to scale non-brand search, and we found that dynamic search ads, especially since the feed-based option was introduced in 2017, 2018, that's what really what we found to be the best solution for non-brand. We still want to identify individual high-value keywords, or especially ones where you need to have, be very careful about brand safety or brand control, and be managing those by hand. Especially that's where we can, apply additional insights, such as based on your seasonality or your overall strategy. But for those longer tail terms, again, many of which are your highest shopping intent keywords, we've really found that using the data that's provided to us by Google through automation is key to success, right? There is data that you can leverage in automation that is never made directly visible to the advertiser. Automation allows Google to do things like, auction time bidding that will more specifically hone in on somebody searching a relatively broad term or a relatively infrequently searched term with the appropriate bid. When we balance that together with our kind of manual approach, that's when we are able to really scale and get the best results.
We did have a question come in, John, around the feed-based DSA product. The question basically asked, how do we dynamically set up these targets? So it was about the targeting for shirts casual, shirts brothers, shirts dresses. How is this actually set up? Because a DSA page view is generally more broad targeting.
Yeah, it's a great question. And the feed is really what allows us to do that, because in the feed, we can apply those additional fields and then set, feed-based targets that are very specific to the attributes of those specific pages. In a more traditional DSA setup, that's really done with URL filters. So you might be filtering based on catalog and things like that. But that's, because it's based on URL filter, it's very difficult to get specific to the product level. You'll often end up sending, bidding the same against entire departments, entire product lines, where there is, in fact, a real difference in performance to get down to the granular level. So having all of that data in the feed and then defining our ad group structures and our product group structures based on product attributes that are contained in the feed, instead of filtering on URL, is really what allows us to do this in a dynamic way at scale and apply that data.
Another question actually came in yesterday around if I don't have an actual product feed to target traditional or non-traditional product pages on my site, such as services or a form fill for lead gen, can you create dynamic targets for those type of services?
Yeah, absolutely. Product catalog pages are the easiest thing to really leverage using this feed-based DSA solution, because you're able to kind of apply a lot of the same optimizations from your shopping feed. But this absolutely works really for any type of content on your site that does play a role in the customer shopping journey. That can even include SEO content or blog content that you're building to engage with your community. Anecdotally, we've had a mattress retailer client where we were able to drive content to their lifestyle blog, to things like recipes for smoothies and things like that. Because with feed-based DSA, we're able to target that and optimize it towards a target ROAS, a target CPA. So still holding accountable to performance. But then, Google was able to, at the auction time, identify that this person searching for this lifestyle content is somebody who is actively shopping for a mattress, has been to our client's website before, and is able to then kind of, bring this person in, even though that's a page that you normally never be driving paid traffic to. That would be very hard to justify buying that keyword manually, right? But by appropriately leveraging automation to really use all the data at hand, you're able to really leverage all of your content and really see what works in terms of getting people into your site and building that ultimate journey, and not just that immediate next step.
Right. Just a quick case study on feed-based DSA. So we actually discovered this product with one of our retailers who was really feeling some pressure year over year. Multi-channel retailer. They did have brick and mortar as well as online and a services component of their website for lessons and things of that nature, but feeling a lot of pressure on the non-brand side, especially in search. Competitors like Amazon and others coming in and really kind of bidding up their space and getting into the auction. So really, trying to do some experimentation to, help break through some of those plateaus. What we found is that the feed-based DSA product across the board. We have rolled this out to our retailers here at Adolescent, but it's been consistent in reducing CPCs in the 10 to 15% range. With Staples, it actually reduced CPCs 28%. So a great CPC reducer, but in turn, how much more revenue does that give us? You know, just cutting CPCs is great, but are we getting extra volume? And what we found is that Google actually favors the DSA format over the traditional keyword in the auction. That's something that we've learned over the last year. And with that, the dynamic feed-based DSA targets do perform really well. And so with Staples, we were able to increase non-brand revenue 6x. We were able to increase clicks 120,000. And this is month over month. We turned on the feed-based DSA product, and it was just a huge pop in non-brand search. But as we've learned over time, it's a great new revenue acquisition tool, a new customer acquisition tool. And we typically see it increase revenue in the 10 to 15% range on most accounts that we've rolled this out to. So a really nice addition to a non-brand search strategy here.
Okay. And of course, paired with that, right, we also need to be doing ad copy and extension testing. This is actually part of the interesting dichotomy of search management today, or really, kind of digital marketing management today, where at the same time, right, we want to find that level of granularity wherever there is a real difference in audience and audience need and performance. You want to have that granular breakout and control to make sure that you're bidding correctly and, addressing the audience with the right message. But you also want to have a lot of consolidation, because consolidation is really what aggregates your data together, feeds the machine learning algorithms that are more and more importantly a part of good campaign management. So what we want to be doing is aggregating campaigns together and then making sure that we're taking that opportunity to do better ad copy, to be testing and doing extension testing, pairing crafted messaging with customizing our crafted messages to the needs of each ad group, making sure that we have coverage across extensions and that we have the flexibility to be updating and editing copy, especially in alignment with a promotional calendar. And then a big part of this is also our ability to leverage ad customizers. On the next slide.
Mhm.
Really paired with feed DSAs and that kind of consolidation strategy. Ad customizers is a lot of what allows us to have those consolidated campaigns, but still with more personalized messages, right? Using audience-based customizers, location-based and promo-based customizers to just make sure that we are speaking more directly to that individual consumer's needs and highlighting the most relevant information to them as part of that shopping journey, without needing to create extremely granular ad groups to have that level of specificity.
I did see one more question that I had missed actually from the feed-based DSA piece, but I do think it fits here with the ad customizers. Basically, a basic question. Are we moving away from keywords, or are we still using keywords and the DSA?
Yeah, it's definitely a better together strategy, right? Again, we really believe in that kind of hybrid approach, and that's where it's important to be kind of pulling out your individual high volume keywords, especially ones that have a lot of kind of concern around the brand, such as branded terms, or if you have any sensitive products or licensing deals or things like that. You want to be carefully controlling those. That's still, you don't want to rely on automation for that. And again, it gives you the opportunity to leverage all of your data, the additional information that maybe is not making its way into Google. So it's definitely a better together approach.
Thank you, John.
All right, yeah, and as we continue to follow Andrew, right, we can support lifetime value, we can cross-sell and bring him to additional products, right, capture that intent, support the full outfit. Now that he's understanding your customer life cycles, how often repeat purchase occurs, building some retargeted advertising into your CRM, your CRM approach, we can continue to upsell Andrew on, again, right, that fall outfit or maybe that sports jersey. As you really optimize to kind of these multiple funnels simultaneously, right? So Andrew might be in consideration for one thing while actively shopping for another. He might be, checking out his in-store options as well as looking at the app. You really want to be focusing on optimizing for that overall customer value and lifetime value. by also leveraging custom conversions, right? Not just being focused on checkout and revenue, but also understanding repeat purchase, in-store engagement, engagement with rewards, app downloads, right? Really making sure to understand and value all of the different conversions and micro conversions across your online and offline ecosystems, and bringing that together to be able to optimize towards it. Our system, we're able to pull all this in and optimize to a blended value where we weight your different conversions based on their value to the business.
There was actually a question on this slide too. Are these custom conversions unique to our technology and platform, or is this something that we can build out in the engine specifically?
It's a case-by-case basis. A lot of this is available in the engines, but may require some manipulation. And obviously, we do want to use our platform because that allows us to activate on it most effectively, and also allows us to kind of, bring in data from many different sources that may not have connectors to the platforms today.
Got it. Thank you.
And yeah, we also want to talk about app marketing. We see this as a really important rising thing for retailers, especially as there's less and less trackability from, especially Facebook, right? It's a little less severe when you're within web browser, but in Facebook, when you're going from app to app, when you're going from app to browser, right? There's a real disconnect in tracking today. So we think it's more and more important for retailers and brands to be thinking about building that own channel for consumer communication with their own native apps, right? That will provide continuous audience segment, consumer analytics. You can, send a notification to someone via the app and really track through how what happens after that in a way that you're starting to lose through some other channels. So, we think that if there's an opportunity, app marketing is a really great way to just engage more deeply with your most loyal customers and get more value out of them, and again, be able to better track your marketing against them and your lifetime value growth against them. And we can work with retailers and brands as well to promote app marketing through the custom campaigns available in Google and Facebook. This is really where it's actually a lot more based on automated campaign types and creative optimization and creative testing. But we can work with you to understand, right, what are the reasons to shop with you? What are the reasons to use the app? And make sure that we're delivering those across the ad networks in a way that, brings your customers into this own channel. And finally, we've talked a lot about kind of optimizing through this entire journey and the importance of optimizing early steps to early step goals, right? How do you make sure that that ultimately is driving results for you? And how do you make decisions around campaign allocation, right? How much should my Google budget be versus my Facebook budget? How much should I be investing into upper funnel versus into pure conversion and retargeting? And, we really believe that today the best way to answer these questions is through modeling and incrementality testing. So we have an approach that we call model-driven planning, where we really take the tool that our data science team developed that we call lift mentality, and use that to run a series of incrementality tests across your business and your different platforms and channels over the course of the engagement to really get a better idea of where your marketing is really working. Our system allows us to take whatever your source of truth for business value is, right? Whether that's a straightforward online e-commerce conversion that is very easy also for Google to understand, or whether it's something maybe much more complex with blended offline and online results, or leads that come through with different conversion rates and different values. We want to really understand the ultimate business source of truth for you for business success, and then use that to build truly equivalent geo splits across your area at the city or DMA or zip code level, whatever is relevant to you. And then what we want to do is lower budget like 10% in one area, raise budget 10% in another area, have that control group to hold things steady. And that what that really allows us to do is at net zero change to your overall spend, no more than 10% impact in any one area, we still create a 20% differential to really compare and understand what is the true impact on your bottom line results, including awareness and the K factor, the halo effect. What is the real impact on your bottom line results? And that is really what allows us to help you understand the value and validation of these marketing strategies and help make those budgeting decisions.
So we always get a lot of questions on this section right here for the group or for the audience on today. So let me just kind of read these off. They came in last night. The first question was, for this model-driven planning tool, what data source is the preferred source of measure that we would use to look at something like this?
Just whatever is best aligned with your data results, with your business results, right? Usually it's something around revenue because we work with retailers, right? So it's usually some sort of blend of online and offline revenue, but whatever, is your actual source of truth that can be broken down at the geo-specific level.
Another question was outside of the channels in the presentation here, Facebook and Google, does this work for other avenues like programmatic display and or TV and radio?
Yeah, absolutely, right? This is really a strategic approach, right? Really understanding that you want to be reaching your consumers at different phases of their life cycle. We've talked through some of the specific tactical opportunities and, some of the unique approaches that we as an agency have to executing along this strategy, but the overall mindset applies across every channel. And, there's a lot that we haven't shared with you today in terms of how we address this in channels like Amazon, right? Where, for example, Amazon is a very self-contained, closed off walled garden style ecosystem, even more than something like Facebook. There's very little opportunity to be using outside data or audiences to influence Amazon. You have to really kind of optimize within its own ecosystem. But even there, we clearly see that there's a long customer journey within the Amazon search, right? Where people start in, do browsing, there's opportunity to hit them with display banners and display ads. And then as they start searching non-brand, doing product research, making sure that you have your promoted products there. And then, of course, always maximizing when they are searching for the specific product at the branded level. And yeah, we have a question here from Sarah in the chat. You mentioned the customer funnel. I'm assuming you're looking at across platforms. What about in individual platforms specifically? Would you recommend having campaigns at each step in the funnel? And the answer is a caveated yes. It does depend, of course, on your business, and you need to be looking at each channel and be using data to make these decisions, right? Not just making assumptions, but we do want to understand, right? How does each channel fit into the customer journey at multiple phases? In this presentation today, we talked about, having awareness campaigns in Facebook to prospect compared with dynamic product ad retargeted campaigns to close the deal and drive the conversion, compared with more of a mid-funnel, kind of prospecting outreach campaign. We looked at having PLA shopping campaigns that are competitor conquesting and delivering a local inventory ad offer to get the person to make the purchase that day versus the non-brand DSA approach, which is really where we're prospecting up funnel in search and trying to get to people when they're doing research. So it's really just about understanding how your customers are actually using these channels, maybe running some test campaigns to see what kind of responses and results that you're getting, using model-driven planning to truly measure the actual impact on your business, not just the most immediately measurable impact. But yeah, as you understand that, then it does become very important to then be speaking to those different phases of the journey individually within that platform, because somebody who's doing research and getting ideas for that summer outfit is definitely looking for a different ad than someone who's ready to make the purchase from the most convenient retailer.
Great. And then finally, we'll just finish off with a case study around this model-driven planning approach. So Mercari, one of our partners, and for those who are not familiar with Mercari, they're the selling app. So, if you have an old computer or something sitting around your house that you want to sell, a purse or what have you, you take a picture, you put it up on the Mercari app, and then it's kind of live and can be. Mercari will actually serve media on those products that you're trying to sell via the Google search or other avenues, whether that be social or somewhere else. So Mercari's challenge when they came to Adolescent, they wanted to understand, were they under investing in these programs or were they spending too much in these programs? And I think that we see that a lot where our retailers often ask, I don't invest much in brand. Am I missing out on new customers? Or am I investing too much in brand? And should I be putting that money somewhere else? And so some of these questions are great to answer here with the model-driven planning approach. With Mercari specifically, we found that their Google Shopping program actually contributed to 3x new customer incremental growth acquisition downstream. So it was a great channel to drive new customers. And what we found is that as Mercari tightened up their ROAS targets a little bit and pushed more dollars through the channel, it really did contribute to, I would say, great top line new customer acquisition and revenue growth, and allowed them to understand the full channel impact, at least for Google Shopping, and then they pushed more money through the channel. So I think that's a good kind of a illustration of, how this model-driven planning actually comes to fruition, if you will. So we have just a few minutes left, and I think I've hit the questions that we had come in that came in last night, but I did want to open it up to the group. If there's anybody else, Sarah or others, that have any questions around the different sections that we covered, we're happy to do a Q&A session for the next couple minutes.
All right, and then as Angela noted, we also will be sending along recording the session and our new white paper. And then please, visit adolescent.com/events for the upcoming calendar of other lunch and learns and webinars and things like that.
Absolutely. And I'll give it just another minute to see if there's any other questions that come through. But once again, as John mentioned, we will pass over the recording.
Oh, here we go. From Sarah again. For dynamic ads, does that apply to discovery campaigns either? Yeah, so there's a couple of different things going on here with dynamic ads. They're different in Google versus Facebook as well. When you're saying discovery campaigns, I guess you're talking about the discovery campaign type in Google, where we're able to kind of serve those social assets to more prospecting based audiences. That's absolutely Google's kind of challenger channel to social, whereas designed to drive more overall awareness and discovery. So yeah, that is something that you want to be running, but you want to be thinking about it kind of, how does it fit in? How does it compete? You also want to be carefully thinking about, how you're using dynamic ads or discovery campaigns in concert with your smart shopping campaigns if you're using smart shopping, because smart shopping also plays in the same inventory that discovery does. So again, it's really about kind of just mapping out your customer journey and the platforms they use, using your campaign performance results to actually test that out and understand, am I more effectively reaching people in these channels using this campaign type or that other campaign type, right? That's really where our expertise comes in, to be testing these approaches across multiple clients, developing our general best practices, and then having that rigorous testing approach for each individual client's unique scenario to find the best solution for them.
And if there's no more questions, we'll give everybody a couple of minutes back. We do these events monthly, and as things start to open back up, historically we would do some of these actually in markets and actually run a venue and do some of these lunch and learn type things. So could be something coming, to an area near you at some point. But once again, feel free to join these events, and I hope everybody got to have a nice lunch today. I'm actually excited about my Thai food. It's almost here.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.